back. We are back. Steve, you are muted. We're
I
back.
hit unmute right at the end of that.
It unmutes automatically. Still new to the software.
I was just excited to say 38-7. It happened again.
Yeah. That's crazy. I didn't even really realize that. Same score as that Vikings Conference Championship.
Yep.
Does that mean this NFC Championship is going to be 15-10? Is it going to just?
I mean, with Purdy, I think the Eagles are going to put up more than 15, but
yeah, I wouldn't be able to handle that. Welcome back, Philly Steak Show, everybody.
Yes, welcome back.
Unreal week so far. Just celebrating this win and the Cowboys' loss. I mean, can it be a better time to be an Eagles fan? I mean, come on. Last NFC team standing, knocked the Giants out. Huge win. Huge. Yeah. And guess what? Injury report comes back today. Squeaky clean. You got two guys on it, Lane Johnson and Avonte Maddox. Limited practice each. Let's start there. How good?
You'll love to see it. I mean, I think the big thing going into this game, it's the rest or rust thing. But we said last week, it's like Eagles needed that rest. We kind of got. I think the Eagles were pretty fortunate this year with injuries, all things considered. But they all sort of stacked. Those big ones kind of stacked up at the end, and you earn. You start off to that 13-1 start, and you had the luxury of where they just had to win that one game to get in, and we were able to get guys healthy. And clearly, what happened on Saturday was Eagles executing at an extremely high level with their top players and having everyone back. You saw the impact of Gardner Johnson back there with the safeties, and just it was an encouraging performance. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, even Kenny Gainwell went nuts. I mean, they just ran the ball so well. Jalen Hurts started the game. I mean, couldn't have played better. Making throws. The first throw to Devontae Smith even was like, man, it's just right back where we left off. Felt like a Sunday afternoon, mid-season. It was just nothing. It was like a walk-through practice. I mean,
felt like that Steelers game.
Say what?
Felt like that Steelers game.
Yeah. So similar to that Steelers game where they just kind of dominated from front to back. The Titans game was another one where it felt so easy, and it's not easy. It's not easy to dominate a team or win in the NFL at all. And these guys come out and they in the playoffs nonetheless against a team that really everyone talked about. It's tough to beat a team 3 times. They're familiar with you, and they came out and beat the daylights out of them. So I mean, not the game doesn't even really need a lot of analyzation. I thought that the Brian Daboll 4th down try at 7-0 and you're at midfield, he goes for it on 4th and 8. I was like, this guy's in over his head, man. This guy's gonna get this desperate already. They smell. It's like they smelled the blood in the water and they just attacked it. And it's going to be a tougher fight this week. I think the 49ers are a better team than the Giants, but so far so good for this Eagles team, all healthy.
No, and I think that the Eagles win that game handily regardless. But to me, with that, just to get back to that 4th and 8. It's 3rd and 3. Giants are putting together a decent drive, to start the game. Obviously we go down there and score right away. We're looking great, but 3rd and 3, I didn't get the play call on 3rd and 3 where you're at that part in the field, which is like the part that stresses me out, the 50 to the 35, where like you don't want to punt the ball because you hit it in the end zone. What are you going to net like 19 yards on a punt? But you're at 4 down territory. So I didn't get the 3rd down call.
You want to get what you're saying is you wanted to run there because
you want to run or short, quick pass, get the ball out. You can't take a negative play there, and they do. And then, they go for it on 4th and 8, and it just felt like that 3rd down call. That was just not it. And then they should have punted on 4th, but they were obviously pressing because they saw us go down and roll. And that's, again, that's Jalen Hurts, and that's the offense. And, a lot of, I forget who it was, but an analyst, he put it perfectly, like how to defend Jalen Hurts. It's like, it's 11-on-11 football. You have to be so mindful of what he's going to do and how he's going to get that ball out and distribute it. You can't just disregard him in the pocket. We're running RPOs. He's moving around, extending plays. And it's like, you have to defend that. And it makes it so much harder for defenses because they're really, they have to have a guy on that quarterback. It's not like, Joe Burrow, who's amazing, incredible talent, but you don't have to defend him. You're not worried about him, running and doing all those things. So there is a little bit of like, you kind of have to pay attention to Hurts. And you really saw some of those games this year, including this Giants one, where his impact, killed him on the first drive throwing the ball. Then the rest of the game, we're opening up these crazy running lanes and we're just washing people out, and they're just dominating down the field. So it was really encouraging.
Yeah, it was a total dominant football game, and it's almost like if they wanted to pass, they could pass. They were gashing them in the run game, and it wasn't even big like 60-yard runs or anything. It was just just dominant performance like everywhere. There was hardly anything to be complaining about if you're an Eagles fan or anything like that. I mean, the play calling was just so methodical. And you mentioned Joe Burrow, that guy, like you said, great player. Quarterbacks come in all shapes and sizes, and I think it's really, a lot of people talk about the system and this and that. And, Jalen Hurts is very easy to game plan around. Like, as an offensive mind, like you said, he opens up so many things, and he's like a point guard out there, a leader out there. And maybe he's not, the typical Joe Burrow or, some of the other guys that people really liked and fall in love with in the NFL. But Jalen Hurts is such a threat, just kind of everywhere, that you almost think like, when you're talking about game planning something for Jalen Hurts is almost just as easy as a Joe Burrow or a Pat Mahomes, because he's so dynamic. And again, people are going to sit there and think like, oh, he's not anywhere near as good as those guys. Well, whatever you want to say, but the Eagles offense with Jalen Hurts in there is pretty darn good. So it's like you can't argue with that. Like, that's the production and all that is the same. Like, you're still, just because he's not Pat Mahomes or Joe Burrow or whoever else, Josh Allen, I know everyone likes him a lot. I do. I like those guys too, but
they're awesome.
Our offense is putting up the same production as any of those ones with the top quarterbacks that you say are better than him. So that can't be said for every other team in the NFL. That can't be said for, a lot of teams that we play and things like that. So it's pretty crazy to see how good this guy got, and how good that how good he got, and how good the offense is, just by adding like a legit wide receiver, having Jalen grow, and everyone else just kind of like followed suit of that. And they're just an elite offense. They're dominant, and there's no sense in debating quarterbacks splitting hairs, because the Eagles offense can score with anyone. And you're not playing against Pat Mahomes. You're playing against the defense, and there's not one that can stop the Philadelphia Eagles, just like they can't stop the other one. So we'll see what happens when, push comes to shove. But, this is the best defense we're going to play, and I'm confident in them.
Yeah. And then, that 49ers game, that was, that came on Sunday. We got to like kick back, put our feet up. There's nothing like getting a win and on a Saturday game in the playoffs and getting to watch those other teams duke it out on Sunday. So what did you think about that Niners performance? The Cowboys putting up 12 points, obviously sky's falling a little there with their offense, and they have a lot to kind of think about. And of course, you kind of have to look inward after something like that.
Yeah. So the Bills-Bengals game and the Chiefs-Jag, I didn't see the Chiefs-Jags. I was at the Eagles tailgate. So, which by the link, that atmosphere was electric. I mean, It was one of the best games, best tailgates I've ever been to. I mean, what more can you say? And we'll get into this later, but I'll be at the next one too. So
I know.
We'll talk about that a little later. But but going back, so I didn't see that first game. Game on Sunday.
Great game.
Yeah, I heard. I saw it was. I walked by a few TVs in the parking lot and was catching it, but couldn't think anything else but getting a W for the Birds.
So, of course. I wasn't. I was kicking back a few cocktails at the house by that point, just getting hyped up for the Eagles. But you gotta, Doug Peterson and them really played them tough, and the Chiefs had to deal with a lot of adversity with the injuries. So Pat Mahomes' ankle is obviously a big topic of conversation this week, but.
Yeah.
I thought the Jaguars played them tough. Some turnovers definitely showed their inexperience, but the Chiefs had to battle through some adversity. So I thought it was a good game, it's going to be it's set up. Bengals Chiefs is going to be.
Whew. Yeah, it's going to be great. Rematch of last year's NFC Championship, and the Bengals, I watched that with my dad at the bar. Actually, we were grabbing some food. I couldn't drink on Sunday, but um, so we were watching that game, and it was kind of a snooze fest, kind of boring. I mean, Burrow
Yeah.
looked great. They looked, the Bengals looked great, and hats off to them. And then obviously back to my house for the Cowboys game, and
Yeah.
man, I mean, I don't know what to make of this team anymore. I mean, I don't think that they can be in a position to like be demanding respect. They're acting like everyone's against them for no reason. This is the same story we see every year with this team. They
Yeah.
come out and they lose in the same couple rounds. They just play poorly, or against teams they could beat. I mean, it's one game. You go out there, you win, you execute, you can win a game. And Dak Prescott played them out of that game with the 2 interceptions, and they just weren't able to get anything going. And I'm just say this: guys like Derek Carr, even Carson Wentz was in a similar situation. Teams grow tired of these guys after a while, and you're paying them this much money to go to the same spot in the playoffs, or them get hurt, or whatever the case is. With Wentz, it was injury more so, and just his regression, obviously. And Derek Carr, just kind of a guy that's never been bad, right? Kirk Cousins from Washington, when he was on Washington, it's not that they're bad quarterbacks. They're not bad. Dak Prescott isn't bad.
No.
After a while, right? As the Cowboys, you're not going to keep him around till his late 30s. I mean, Russell Wilson didn't even last till his late 30s. That's rare in the NFL to see a quarterback last to their late 30s when they're not winning. So Dak Prescott's performance over the next 1 to 2 years is going to determine whether or not he gets an extension with the Cowboys. And if I had to guess, look, I can't predict if he performs well or not, but with what I've seen already, I don't think so. I just don't think so. And if he shows it, great. But right now, I don't think anybody owes them trusting that's their fans, that's other NFL fans. If you want to believe in him as a fan, look, if I was a Cowboys fan, I'd say I believe in whatever they're going to put on the field, and I'm ready for the season, right? That's just how fans are. A lot of fans are. But if there's a fan that's skeptical, or there's another NFL fan, I don't think you can question that anymore. That they've proven that they deserve skepticism. They deserve people to think like they're not going to get it done. And if the team moves on from Dak Prescott in 2 years because they end up in the same spot and it's the same stuff as it was this year, and this is a team that won 12 games, so they're 2 years in a row. So their expectation is no longer just making the playoffs. And a guy like Derek Carr, and a guy like Dak Prescott, and a guy like Kirk Cousins, a guy like Ryan Tannehill, those kind of quarterbacks that their first team is just they're kind of going to outstay their welcome, and they're going to get rid of them. And maybe they go to a team that's like look at the Jets, for example. You have a young team. They're like, hey, look, and there's a lot of fanfare, and it's a business also. It's a job. It's a business. How do you sell Zach Wilson with that roster? They have a young, budding roster that really had a good season, a step forward. And then you're like, hey, but we have Zach Wilson. He's clearly not any good. Imagine they have Dak Prescott or even a Derek Carr. Those guys have bigger names. They've been around. They can come in. They've played in playoff games. They've played with great receivers. They've been around the block in the NFL. And just bringing a guy like that into the locker room for these young guys, for a young roster, you could flip the culture. And then you're like, hey, he's not our guaranteed future. We're not sure. But look at what Tennessee did. They got Mariota out of there. They brought Tannehill in, and now they were a playoff team. They got the 1 seed a few years. They had a small window, but they didn't win. But that's the kind of culture change that a team like the Jets or even the Raiders or the Miami Dolphins,
Lions,
the Detroit Lions with Jared Goff did a similar thing. So some guys, maybe you're like, that's a guy that could get me over the hump in the chance. That's the other side of it is what the Rams did. They were like, look, we have this team. We feel like Matt Stafford can be the guy that gets us a Super Bowl. And it worked. So maybe one of those guys, whether it's Dak, whether it's Lamar Jackson, right, whether it's the other guy Derek Carr, maybe one of those guys is a team that, or it goes to a team that thinks that's the missing piece to them winning a championship. Some of them will end up on teams that are young and trying to just make a playoff run or just make the playoffs. Yeah. So these guys can have roles and careers past the initial team that drafted them. But more times than not, that's what happens than a guy playing till he's 38, 39 years old. So to me, it's like Dak Prescott's got a year or two left as a Cowboys quarterback. And if something drastic doesn't happen, then he's probably not going to make another contract with them, and he'll probably end up on a team that either sees him as a piece to move on to the next step or piece to get them in position to make that step. So, I mean, it'll happen, but that's why you can't get too crazy. Like, you can go crazy for a player when he's there, but don't start saying things like, well, strap in because he's going to be here for 8 years. No way. No way. You know what I mean? So, I mean, like I said, Russell Wilson didn't make it to 39, and he's a Super Bowl champ. So, I mean, come on. Things happen. Things happen. Guys move, and Dak Prescott's getting to that point. And that's just not just a report on Dak Prescott or whatever. That's a team in our division that their little plan here is going to have to come into quickly, because this is the new team to beat in the division now. And the Giants look like pretty darn good too. So the Cowboys have to figure out what they want to do, because if they keep getting the same results and they're just okay with kind of, floating along, beating up on teams, that beating up on teams in your own division is not going to last forever. And they've done it for so long without capitalizing. There needs to be a plan to come together. And I'm interested to see it, man, as a football fan in general. But in our division, it's shakeups happen, and that's going to be a team that in the next year or two are going to shake things up and could be in a bigger way than a lot of their fans and a lot of fans in general expect. So, and then I know that was a long-winded kind of conclusion, but that's reality. Out of that game, I mean, look, if they win that game and they're coming to Philly next week, who knows? Or this week coming up, who knows what happens, right?
Yeah.
Who knows? But now it's like, man, they're on thin ice. He is on the thin. Dak Prescott is on thinner ice performance-wise than he's ever been with the Dallas Cowboys. And Mike McCarthy's going to start getting looked at a little bit too. And it's funny because they come off 2 12-win seasons in a row.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's not enough, though, not for the Dallas Cowboys. So they know the standard, you know what I mean? Especially and it especially hurts when their division is competitive, where the Eagles are doing what they're doing. I mean, you can feel it. Jerry Jones is like, what is this? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so,
yeah. He's not the most. Yeah, he's definitely he can't be satisfied with it. He certainly has, his high expectations, and maybe he's not the best person to be at the helm for the Cowboys, but nonetheless he is, and he's not going to give that up anytime soon. So he definitely wants better results. But yeah, again, with Dak, I saw something this week that there's no team that has had a quarterback coaching combo start, as a rookie, and if they haven't won it in the first 5 years, it just doesn't happen. That's not saying, obviously we know Peyton Manning went to the Broncos a few years ago, and they won, but that's through a trade. And it's like, when you're building that team and that quarterback, he gets $40 million, then you can't use that money elsewhere. You got to start hitting on draft picks. And most recently you saw that big regression with Wentz and what happened, his injuries, and then you're missing on draft picks. But in the 2017 draft was horrific. 2018 draft for the Eagles, pretty bad. Outside of Goddard.
Whoa, now Avante Maddox.
Yeah, Avante.
You got Lotta, but they just kind of came and helped.
Yeah. Those are some late picks, but you're not hitting on any high picks.
Yeah, it was offense. You got to go to the 19 draft. That was the J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, the Andre Ford, and then you got the Jalen Reagor. When you have a quarterback making that much money, you got to be on point with your draft. And to be honest, the Cowboys are a pretty good drafting team. That is
they do
pretty good. Yeah. But I think with giving Dak $40 million, I think that like any quarter, like you said, in that first 5 years, you kind of get a sense of what a team can be. And they fired Jason Garrett and they brought Mike McCarthy, and he's a little bit better of a coach. But you're paying Dak $40 million, and you're just not going to continue to pay him that much money and have, the same result and not be able to really have flexibility. If they go and get a young, dynamic quarterback in the draft, a guy that can make plays, just raw out of college, you can probably go at least 10-7 his first year if he can make plays with the Cowboys roster. They're good. They're a good team. They have a really good defense. Dak Prescott stunk, and he's not mobile that mobile anymore. He's a little more mobile than some of the guys, but he's not really dynamic anymore. It's a young man's game, and it moves fast at the NFL. He's not the new young kid on the block anymore. You know what I mean? He like in 2016, him and Wentz were like the new, oh man, these guys are like so dynamic and they can do all these different things. And look at them now. I mean,
Yeah. Look at
Dak
Wentz.
had a decent year last year. I'm not going to compare Dak and Wentz. Dak is better than Carson
Oh,
Wentz,
yeah.
who's a complete disaster right now, and probably will never recover from that. But when guys get to that 30 and there's like, you look at like Jalen Hurts and like Justin Herbert, and these guys are like making dynamic plays, and like Dak Prescott, like, is he really great? Like his best years seem to be behind him. I mean,
Yeah.
even last year, the 37 touchdowns, the big season he had, I still just don't see like, I just don't see that. I didn't see him being like the most dynamic player. He had a great start to the season and he kind of faded off at the end. Stats looked great at the end of the season, but they were a stacked offense. Like, if you need all that, if you need all that around the quarterback, and you're paying the quarterback $40 million, it's very hard to believe that that's the guy that you are going to move forward with. When they pay Jalen Hurts all this money, you're going to start losing players. But if Jalen Hurts is good enough, like we believe he is, they're going to keep making the playoffs, kind of like a Pat Mahomes does out in Kansas City.
Yeah.
Josh Allen, over in Buffalo. When things start changing, you have to be able to continue to put numbers up and bring your team to the playoffs and advance in the playoffs. And there's just been too many years where it's been like, oh, that Dak puts up good numbers and they go 8-8. And every year it's like a new story. Like, okay, now they have this great team, but Dak fades down the stretch. You know what I mean? So it's like, you're not going to pay a guy $40 million year after year after year for him just to get older and not as like, you could get a cheaper, younger playmaker for a cheaper price and probably go to the playoffs with this roster for the Cowboys. So I think that, Cowboys fans themselves have dug themselves in on Dak, and he's a great guy. I think he's you could say a lot about Dak. He's a great guy. I think he's a great guy. He's a good leader, all that stuff. And he's a good quarterback, like I said, but you could add more to that team and have a younger, cheaper, more dynamic player at quarterback than to continue going with Dak Prescott and paying him that much just to stay afloat, just to go, win double-digit games and if he's not getting done in the playoffs, it's been overstated. It's going to be over. So we'll see what happens with him, but it's gonna depend on these next two seasons, really, especially next year. We're going to see what happens. So, you can run this back if he goes off, but and earns a contract essentially and go deep in the playoffs. But I don't know. What I've seen so far, I don't think it's going to happen. So we'll see.
Well, I hope they keep paying him $40 million, because I don't think he's going to put him over the top. So, but they do have to, from an objective standpoint, they do have to definitely strongly consider changing things up soon. But 49ers, defense looks good. I think some of the turnovers you could certainly probably pin on Dak, but yeah, this 49ers offense. How do you think the Eagles? Those are matchups. It's the Eagles offense, 49ers defense, and 49ers offense versus Eagles defense. But I'm excited for that Eagles offense versus that 49ers defense. I think it's gonna be, they haven't really faced a guy like Hurts. There's only one kind of guy in the league like Hurts, and that's Lamar. And they obviously AFC, they don't play a lot, and he's been hurt a lot this year. But you gotta, this is going to be it. It's going to be matchups on matchups. There's obviously talent on both sides of the ball. That that linebacking core is no joke. But I think that secondary, you can attack it a little bit.
Yeah. Obviously, like we just. We discussed in depth about Dak Prescott and his game and all that. And I'm also going to add this. It's a pretty good 49ers defense. So, I'm going to take a little bit of the slack. It is a good defense. I'm not just going to sit here and act like Dak, blew a game against some scrub team. That is a really good defense over there. Mm-hmm. And, while the interceptions, some of them are on him, obviously it's their guys make them too, getting pressure on the quarterback and things like that. So, really, to me, it comes down to winning the battle of the trenches. I don't think Dallas necessarily did on the offensive side of the ball. On the defensive side of the ball, they played really well. So, you could see how Brock Purdy was affected. The Cowboys did a really good job on defense, and it was a really tough game. It was a dogfight. and it did come down to just a couple plays and a couple turnovers and things like that. So, you got to win the battle of the trenches. It starts at the line of scrimmage. If you can dominate at the line of scrimmage, everything will work and everything won't work for them. And I think that's the biggest thing. And but the problem is they have a really good defense and they get a lot of pressure and win their battle at the line of scrimmage too with Nick Bosa. So the thing that we have that the Cowboys kind of didn't is an elite offensive line from left to right. I mean, you know the whole O line. You got your Jordan Mailata, Landon, Jason Kelsey, Isaac Seumalo, and Lane Johnson. And when those five linemen are out there on the field together, you're going to be hard pressed to find any front seven that completely dominates them. They'll win a couple snaps. Obviously they're great players too, but at home, I think this offensive line and defensive line is at their best, and I think that's the key to winning the game is winning the battle at the line of scrimmage, keeping your quarterback clean, so he can operate. And I think, we could carve up any secondary with the weapons we have, as long as Jalen Hurts has time and we can make holes in the run game and keep their defense honest and just kind of overwhelm them with the playmakers. It's not going to work if you don't have your O-line and your trenches set. So the defense, the defensive side of the ball, kind of goes the same way. You get pressure on them and they can't deploy their weapons on us. They have, guys sat out of practice today, Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, and Elijah Mitchell, but they'll probably all play, and they're all tough. I was really impressed with Elijah Mitchell. I don't know if he had some big statistical game, if we're being honest. I don't think anyone really did on the 49ers, but a couple of runs I saw, he was tough. He moved the chains and ran with physicality. So everyone talks about Christian McCaffrey, but Elijah Mitchell is going to be one of those guys where you have to stop them on early downs. You can't allow them to get easy yards and get Brock Purdy into those third and shorts so they can quick pass and we don't let our pass rush go. So Elijah Mitchell is a key factor in that short, getting them into short yardage, converting short yardage, just as much as Christian McCaffrey is. And then, they have Deebo Samuel, who they use as a running back, as a slot receiver, as an outside receiver. They have Brandon Ayuk, who's also very versatile, little budding, kind of just do it all, real explosive player. So they have a lot of weapons as well. So it's really going to come down to who can disrupt who better, because if you can't disrupt those offenses, they can kill you with the weapons that they have. And then, but lucky enough, both defenses are really great and up to the challenge. So it's kind of that unstoppable force meets an immovable object kind of matchup. And as much fanfare as would have been behind the Cowboys and Eagles matchup, this is really the best football matchup because they're just the two best teams, and that's been proven all year.
Yeah, and I think with when you're the Eagles have had the luxury, and I think the NFC in general is you're playing inferior quarterbacks, and Jalen Hurts was the best quarterback in the NFC this year, and it certainly tapers off after that, and you see the AFC, it's all these almost all those quarterbacks are playing well. Maybe outside the Dolphins, and the Ravens, because they were dealing with their own injuries and have their starters in there. But the other five guys, great quarterbacks, and they're really, what we have to do is really, what we did with Daniel Jones is we didn't turn the ball over. Yeah, we dominate, but we didn't give him a short field. And we're playing Brock Purdy, inexperienced quarterback, again, not turning the ball over in the football. This guy's not going to come in here and light you up like Joe Burrow. So if you can't just we just got to protect the football again and give them those long fields, because the Cowboys, it was a low scoring game, but the Cowboys had some costly turnovers that kind of put the Niners in short fields. The Niners, they executed, made a couple plays, and everyone's going to do that because it's the NFL and these guys are elite talents. But you just got to we cannot give them those long. We got to make them drive the whole field, not turn the ball over. I think the Eagles are going to be able to handle this, and we can go down and score points in chunks. We can grind you down on a big drive. We can open the game with a 40-yard pass, and Jalen Hurts can go 6 for 6 on a drive. And the next play, we just run it right down. So as long as they're not turning the ball over, I feel really good about the Eagles' chances, because I know the Eagles playing a good defense, but I got to think the Eagles are going to be able to muster up at least mid-20s in the point range, and Brock Purdy, that's not necessarily a guarantee, and if you're not giving them short fields, and I think that's going to be the key to this game is not giving them the short fields, and our offense going out and making those explosive plays when their offense hasn't really showed that. I mean, they played really well against the Seahawks, but I think that was more of a product of the Seahawks being overmatched, and the Seahawks were in there. They had that costly turnover by Geno that down at the red zone, but I'm excited to see how this Eagles offense does. They protected the ball well last week. They executed at a high level, and they can do that again. I think we're going to Phoenix.
Yeah, and Brock Purdy being on the road, field position. Love how you brought that up. There's a lot of things that you think like there's. I don't think it's Phoenix, isn't it? Scottsdale,
Glendale. They're all that. It's such a weird hub there. It's like it's like Phoenix, like Scottsdale.
Glendale. I forget where they're exact.
Glendale. I think it's technically Glendale.
I think it is. Yeah, I think that's where the stadium's at.
Yeah.
But no, not super important. But you feel like the Eagles have a real good chance because like you said, if you just kind of play a clean game, the other quarterback on the other team isn't like some lethal elite player, and knowing that, it's like all you kind of have to do is play a little keep away and push them on long fields, and next thing you know, they don't have enough of those drives in them to sustain anything. And if you can get up early and it's going to be interesting to see how the first part of this game kind of starts to come alive, because the Eagles look like the hottest team of all time last year. I mean, I'm sorry, last game on Saturday. And to see this game kind of start, can they do that again? Can they replicate that against an even better defense? And if they can, it's going to be crazy to see. I mean, the city's going to be fire regardless.
It's going to be so good.
It's going to be insane. I mean, the game inside that stadium is going to be crazy. I just can't believe another NFC Championship.
Great. 3 o'clock start time too. You gotta love that. That's a great ideal tailgating start time as well. It's a little earlier than the 4 o'clock games. It's perfect. But yeah, I think this just to comment on that. Not to look ahead. But if they are in the Super Bowl, that you're probably going to get more aggressive with your play calling and take some more shots because you're going to be playing a guy, Mahomes or Burrow, that puts up a lot of points. So you're going to have to, we get there. You're going to have to be more aggressive and take some more risks. And I think with what we saw last week with the Giants, with Daniel Jones, and what we have Brock Purdy, we got to capitalize on this inexperienced quarterback. And the Eagles have really done a really good job of not letting them expose you. And really the only game that with Hurts in there that we lost is we ran all over by the Redskins. That really wasn't as much on Heineken. Commanders, yeah. It said still, we are Commanders, but it's that's really what we do have that luxury, and that's a big advantage. And Purdy's the hot hand right now, but we have handled these quarterbacks well. He can extend some plays a little bit, but he's not like this super mobile guy. So with that said, what are your kind of keys to the game and sort of predictions going into this?
Yeah, I mean, kind of covered a lot here. Keys to the game. I made it on a YouTube short today about the defensive keys to the game. Obviously, like I said, controlling the line of scrimmage. It's on early downs. You need to stop them on early downs on run plays because you can't give up easy third downs too much. Got to get them in obvious passing downs. Number two is that allows your pass rush to get free. So you rush the passer. You get on Brock Purdy. Don't let him use Kittle and Debo and Ayuk and all those guys. And then number three, on defense, come up with a turnover or two, make a big play. And Darius Slay, James Bradbury, CJ, Avante's coming back and trying to play. You got Marcus Epps back there playing really good football. There's a lot of DBs that can make plays on the ball and get an interception or big pass tip up and someone else picks it off, something like that. They're an aggressive bunch, so make some plays back there. Win the turnover battle, and you'll surely win this game. On offense, like we said, just play a clean game, score points, be efficient. You can pass the ball, you can run the ball, whatever's working at the time. But that's the versatility of this offense, and that's the beauty of it is that they can kind of do anything. So if we need to, if we're grinding a drive out, then grind the drive out. If we're if Hurts is finding success in the air, going to certain receivers and, Dallas Goedert, anything like that, then do that. I thought they played, it's crazy to say this. I thought they played great, but I think they could play even better than they did, with more dynamic play calling. I think still think they were a little bit vanilla against the Giants. I just watched actually the highlight, and a lot of quick hitches, a lot of the flares out of the backfield, just getting the ball out of Hurts' hands and things like that. But I think they could be even a little bit better throwing the ball just downfield, making big plays, and maybe that's something that they need to do this game, or that they will do. But do what works. Obviously Jalen Hurts is still banged up with that shoulder is going to feel like that all year. However it feels right now, it's going to feel like that or worse all the rest of these 2 games if they go to the Super Bowl. So you have what you have, and he acknowledged it today. So I don't think you can curtail anything. I don't think you can afford to call a conservative game plan. Go downfield. I think they'll need to make a couple plays, but do what's working. Maybe they won't. So. I think if they do those things, they're just themselves on offense, they'll have a good game.
Yeah, I think you just give them those short fields. I think you're in a really good. I think that's really the keys to the game to me. Just don't give them any short fields, and we've seen the Eagles execute really highly in the red zone this year, and we can move the ball. It's not going to be. I think with last week, like you said, the vanilla play calling, but good God, some of those holes that the line paved through, it was kind of like, well, if we're we're gashing you for 4 or 5 yards a play. It's not the most sexy way to win, but it's working. And then we softened them up and just kept grinding down the field that we didn't, and once that Bradbury pick happened, it was kind of like, yeah. I don't know. And these guys are going to be able to muster anything to kind of beat us. And I think that really kind of set the tone. So,
yeah. And we didn't even score on that drive, but that kind of was just like, what are they really going to do? And then they gave the ball right back, and then we scored the drive after, and it was 21-0, and then 28-0. And you kind of knew, obviously, at that point that this was going to be a massacre. It's not going to be a storybook. Doug Peterson, Jags come back against the Chargers. I kind of knew it was over. So, that was it was just a massacre. And if they just play a clean game, like you said, don't give short fields and do their jobs and play like they know they can, I think they'll be able to win the game. And I'm going to say 23-16, 23-16. I think they win. I do think that, that it's going to be a kind of a low score. I said the same thing about the Giants-Eagles game too. I said it was going to be a tougher game, and it wasn't, but 23-16 is my final here. Eagles win, and they go to the Super Bowl.
All right, 23-16. I'm gonna go 28-17 Eagles. I think we get that, maybe 28-16. I kind of like a couple field goals from the Niners.
I like 30-31 as well, because those are field goal numbers, and I think we're gonna kick 1 or 2 of them at least.
Yeah, but
couple field goals, couple here, couple there, but a win is I hope it's 5-3. I hope that's the final.
Yeah, we don't care. We'll take a Phillies box score. It doesn't matter.
I'll take a win any way I can get it.
Yeah.
I want to go to the Super Bowl, and not physically. I'm not go to the Super Bowl. I cannot do that. Gosh,
a mere $6,000 for
if the Eagles only knew this story, man. I've been to every home game this year. I mean, there's a million people that do this every year. It's just cool. This is the first time I've ever done it. It is going to be my 13th game this season. I went to all 9 regular seasons at home. I went to 2 road games. That's 11. And then I went to the last week playoff game, and I'm going to this one. So that's 13. 13 games in one season. 105th game, Eagles game, not just at the Link, but in general. I've been to a few road games in my life. 105. The big 105 coming up on Sunday for the NFC Championship. So
well, you know what? You were there for the NFC divisional and championship 2017-18, and they won to the Super Bowl. I was at those too.
Yep.
Great. So I have no utmost confidence you're going to bring home another dub.
Bringing it home.
Just right to the Super Bowl, baby. And what a crazy time, though. Awesome time to be an Eagles fan, to be back this season, executing at a high level. after that 2020 season during COVID, watching that out in LA and just, oh, well, I just remember going to that season. We're like, well, at least we have the Eagles to look forward to. And, they picked a good time from a fan base. Didn't need to sell tickets that year because they certainly couldn't. But, to turn that around and kind of where they're at now, it's remarkable and going to keep this thing going.
Yeah, it was unreal. Tailgate was unreal. Just it's going to be even crazier. I feel this. I mean, I don't know. It's going to be tough to top. That was a Saturday 8 o'clock kickoff, but
good weather on Sunday. It looks like
the good weather. Yeah. I saw that today. I was looking at it, and my app said like 40 something, but then I went online and looked at it. It said like 50 something. So, 51 or something like that. Yeah. So, I mean, we'll see what happens with that, but.
It was good weather for the NFC Championship game last time, and we all know what happened there. So,
yep, exactly. Yeah. But yeah, we'll see what happens. And then that Vikings team, everyone's talking about how they were talked about as one of the best defenses in the league that year, and I think the 49ers are legitimately that good. But we could catch them slipping, and we're just like, who knows? I mean, they haven't seen anyone like Jalen Hurts, so. No. This guy's just playing at a high level, and I think he can operate. I think he can get it done. But, yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting, and I'll be there, and I can't wait.
Yeah, it's going to be sick. Well, that's kind of all we got for today, but thanks for sticking with us, and fly, Eagles, fly.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. If you're going to the game, 4th and John tailgate's always great. If you've never been, I've got, believe it or not, a couple DMs this week. People saying they're coming into town and asking me like things to do, what to go. I just tell them the same thing. 4th and John tailgate, G1 Wells Fargo. It's a great time. Yeah. So, if anyone's sticking around this long watching this and they're coming into town, not know what to do, that's a great tailgate to go to. And I'll pop by there multiple times throughout. I have other friends that I go and see and stuff, but that's a great. They do a really good job, and it's a lot of fun. But anywhere you end up, just have a good time, stay safe, and go Birds.
Go Birds.
Let's get it. See you next week for the show, guys. 7 p.m. Wednesdays. We'll be back, win or lose. Feel like it's a win, though.
It's a win.